Hello, hello, hello. Subtitles are working. I'm all over the place. All good. Hello, everyone. My name is Fiona. Oh, just pop the collar a little bit. So, there we go. Perfect. Oh, not perfect. Hello, my name is Fiona. I use she, her pronouns, and this is Too Long Didn't Read Tabletop RPGs, an accountability read-along stream in which I, Fiona, will read through as much as I can a TTRPG that has caught my interest or has been randomly selected from the gender numeration, the random number generation method that I use, either from the Bookshelf of Doom or the Google Drive of Mystery. How are you doing, friends? Hope you're doing well this very fine Friday. I got a lot of stuff done. I'm getting back into like Pomodoro stuff and like got my Notion, got a to-do list, and have been very good. I'm going to show folks some new dice I got recently. These are critical fumbles and critical success die to give like examples of what kind of stuff you can do. I'm gonna hold up just two to the camera to make it easier. I've got like a red one and a black one. The red one I think is like good things like you got. Oh no, these are fumbles, aren't they? These are fumbles for like weapons. There's one for thrown, there's one for melee, one for range, and then I have four critical hit things about stuff you can do, and like there's stuff like you might be able to see that one there. It's a little bit. No, you can't see it, but basically it's like, oh, you chopped off a toe, you've broken a leg, etc. And I like that sort of stuff. I think it's silly and fun. I think there's one that's like, I've taken your tooth. You're like, uh-oh. So I've got like 12, no 12, I've got 7, sorry, I'm counting, I was just counting there, I was like, oh, 7 sort of dice, and then, I think it's about 12, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11? No. Yeah, 12, sorry, I couldn't do my times tables, but like, that's what it looks like. You got the critical hits stuff, and then it gives you a little key to show you what kind of stuff you've got. I'm all for that sort of stuff. I think it's great. So those came yesterday, which I really like, so I'm going to keep them to one side. And basically, because I'm really bad at combat, I'm very bad at describing it, so hopefully these will give me like a little bit of a prompt. I'm always good fans of like things that can give you prompts and stuff. And I'll just add it to the dice collection, which is off screen, which you can't see. But I hope you're doing well, friends, and happy Friday. As I said, we've got the weekend coming up, which I'm looking forward to. We're going to be busy. It's quite loud, this music, isn't it? It's quite jaunty. Let's see if I can try and find just a gentle. Let's try that one. Because my music's been all over the place recently. There's been I'm trying to move things over, and it's not all copied over. We'll go for this one for now, and hopefully it'll be okay. So if the music pauses or anything like that, I might have to look at it. Because backing up to the network is super difficult. But yeah, today, friends, we are going to be looking at Dusk City Outlaws by Scratch Publishing. And we haven't covered them before on this channel, so I'm quite excited to. But they're quite unusual, I think, Scratchpad Publishing, in that they are what's the word? It's more board game like their stuff. There's been a big trend in the last couple of years to make role-playing games, but with, say, a plastic tray or with extra cards and stuff like that to help people to get it more accessible out there and to make it really customizable. But having cards, I mean, we talked about Good Society. We've got Fight with Spirit, another one by the Story Brewers Publishing, where it's all like they have physical elements. They have cards to help out, but also have an online version as well. So that it's in the same vein as that, as I believe. But just reading from the little thing up here, so Dusk City Outlaws is a tabletop role-playing game for 3 to 6 players set in the sprawling city of New Dunhaven. In this game, players will take on the roles of criminals on the wrong side of the law, collectively known as the right kind of people to those who run in outlaw circles. These criminals come together to form a crew and take on a job, a criminal enterprise brokered to them by a third party. So that's the vibe, that's the theme. I will say it looks more family friendly than I expected. I was thinking of like Blades in the Dark, that kind of vibe. But it seems it's again all I'm up for trying obviously that. So yeah, I haven't read through it yet, but I suspect it's going to be a little bit like when we did our Doctor Who starter set. It's going to be a few more bits and pieces. Again, it's more board game, like it has more board game elements, so maybe this would benefit from a physical review rather than a digital review. I'm going to change the music again because this is also a bit, I don't know, not hard going, but it's a bit like, Let's see if Strixhaven has moved over. Oh, and the grass cutter outside has started. We're all going well today. There we go. Waltz of books. That works. Excellent. Nice. There we go. So, as always, we're going to have some disclaimers at the top of the stream. We have... this is obviously a Too Long Didn't Read Tabletop RPG stream, which is an accountability stream, and meant for me to read through my books and for me to speak aloud, because I'm trying to do some voice acting and stuff. So, number one, I'm not sponsored by Scratchpad Publishing, sorry. This is the first time I'm looking at their games, so I've not been asked to do this at all. I'm going to be looking at, like I said, Dusk City Outlaws. So yeah, take everything, which moves on to the next thing, is that take everything I say with a pinch of salt. I'm not a game designer, I play lots of games, I run lots of games, and it's my first time looking at it. So this is all first impressions, and if I get something wrong, that's absolutely fine as well. I know I will definitely get things wrong. The other thing was content warnings. Again, I assume it is more family friendly. It certainly looks more family friendly. So we will just see. But if something comes up, that's it. Sorry. If something comes up, I'll try and do a trigger warning before we read into it. But do take care of yourselves during the stream, and don't feel you have to play along, have to read along if you do not wish to. You are more important than me reading a book aloud. I hope that grass cutter goes away, the mower goes away, because that is incredibly loud. All right, well, let's move on to then get away from Big Fiona screen. We'll start the stream properly. We'll get there, guys. It's Friday, don't worry. So this is it. This is Scratchpad Publishing. I put in a link to where you can get it, both in the video description and in the chat, so you can check it out. But yeah, here you go. So this is what it looks like. It's sold out. The physical copy is sold out everywhere. Each member of the crew is a member of one of the 8 cartels that rule over the city's criminal underworld. These cartels have each have their own turf, their own specialities, their own motives, and their own methods, but they are all bound together by the arrangement, an agreement that the cartels entered into to preserve themselves against too much infighting. In short, the cartels agree that they have enough enemies without warring with one another, and they all want the same thing: to get rich. Don't we all? The cartels agree to respect each other's turf, and while some bickering and fighting is allowed, large-scale conflict is forbidden, and revenge is frowned upon. To maintain this peace, when someone from the cartels has a job they want done, they call upon the crew, which has members from several cartels. Oh, okay. To pull off the job. Each cartel gets a cut for that job, and the crew gains some wealth, prestige, and influence, plus the promise of future jobs from those brokers. Once the job has been assigned, the crew must come up with a plan, do the legwork to set it in motion, pull off the plan, and survive long enough to get paid. There you go. So as it says, this is an off-the-shelf campaign. You can also receive... Yeah, so I got my stuff through RPG, I would say that. Oh, my phone went off. Just want to check it's not... Cool. It is nothing important. And yeah, and so it is actually a physical box set. And I was hoping there was going to be some pictures of the stuff, but there isn't, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you what the Spectaculars looks like in terms of their system. So the Spectaculars, that is a similar vibe, but it's more about superheroes. Again, it looks very family friendly. You can see here, it looks more like a board game, right? It looks like a cover of a board game that you would play, perhaps. But the Spectaculars, here we go. I'm going to move over to this. First of all, great artwork here. I'm just going to learn more. So yeah, he's got that very comic book style look to it. And yeah, it says to me, family friendly, that anyone could play. But then... and then I was going to show... Does it show it here? No, it doesn't show it here. You can, right now, buy the Spectaculars. Sorry, my brain is not well today. No pre-orders. I wasn't going to go for pre-orders. No, I don't want to do it either. God damn. Let's go to products. We'll go to products. Because it is on sale. You can see up there. It's on sale for $20. The physical copy is on sale for $20, which is bonkers because... It normally retails, I don't know if you guys can see it, normally retails at about 75 US dollars, not including shipping. So that's what, roughly about £70. And you can see here what it looks like, what a player's tray looks like. So you have this sort of character sheet, you have these cards which you can switch in and out to make it really customizable. You've got tokens and you've got dice. And I do think like paying $75-ish for this, I don't know, it feels like a lot when I don't think you need the tray. I don't think you need the card. Like, you know, again, it's like the digital version of it, I would absolutely get like the same thing as well with the tokens. I was like, whoa, it's quite a lot of stuff. And when it says here, on the side here, so ages 14 plus, but then it says 3 to 7 players. 7 players, that's six players plus a GM. Yeah, quite a lot there. But so if you're interested in looking at stuff now, I would absolutely recommend, if you've got the money to spare, maybe grabbing a copy of the core game, like physical core game of the Spectaculars for $20, not including shipping. I think that's an absolute bargain for something that's normally $75. So I bought myself a copy. This is me being transparent, because I want to have a look at like why is the physical copy actually needed, or do you want a digital copy? Because there was no way I was going to spend $75 on it without knowing what was in it and stuff like that. So but anyway, yes, unfortunately the core game of Dusk City Outlaws is sold out, and there was a deluxe copy there. You can see it for about nearly $100, and they are sold out as well. But you can get, as I was going to say, you can get these things via PDF, and currently, if I go to DriveThruRPG, you can see Fiona has bought it. It's roughly, it says £15 because I've got it in. Oh, thank you. I've got it in GBP. God, brain is not working today. So roughly about what, $20 or so for the actual PDF, and you do get, I will say, you do get a lot for it. I'm going to just show you this. Like, this is all the stuff you can get. There's a player's rulebook, there's a judge's rulebook, so that's what your GM is called. You've got various sheets, you've got a quick reference guide, layout dice, token sheets, form fillable character sheets as well, and crew sheets, which is always good in my book. So you do get quite a lot for it, but I don't know if I could justify spending $75. I keep coming back to it. I appreciate that's like, what it is, what it is. But yeah, so that's where you can get it. So DriveThruRPG is where you can get the actual PDF stuff. But if you want to get a physical copy of it, they are sold out currently, and I don't know if it's coming back in stock anytime soon. But if you want to check out something that has a similar quality, then the core Spectaculars game, I assume, is going to have something very similar on that front. Alright, let's just get straight into it. I want to see what this game is about. So what I've done, we're only going to look at the player's rulebook today, because this is the thing, I am not too fussed about the judges one. I assume there's going to be the similar sort of things in both of them. But I think if you wanted to encourage someone to buy this game or play this game, I think just, what is it that you're getting from the player's perspective? So I've got them here, so I can always refer back to this. I've got the player's rulebook here, which comes in at a 28 pages little book. The judge's rulebook, that's 48 pages there. And then the actual sort of like setting reference guide, the new Dunhaven Traveler's Guide, that's 242 pages. Again, it's probably setting and all that sort of stuff. They've clearly separated it out from the other books, which is fine, but that is massive, absolutely massive. So we're not going to look at that today. Like I said, we're going to focus on the player's rulebook today. And the other thing I'll show you as well is that it does in the first couple of pages gives you a list of what the components are. So again, feels very board game like, right? So we had these cartel sheets, what the character pad is. So that's the character sheets that you would get physically. Here's the rule book, the Traveler's Guide. So that's a new Dunhaven one. Speciality sheets, and then all the cards and stuff like that. So yeah, you get a lot of stuff. But do you need it? Do you need it is a good question. But let's start at the top. So looking at the design of it, I do love this landscape. I do also the cityscape, really. The oranges, like that setting sun, looks great. So it's almost like exciting. You're like ready to play in the adventure. It's going to be some sort of night heist game. The sort of like, I don't know about these borders. They're like curtains, aren't they? There's some sort of thing to fill in the gaps, perhaps. The logo itself, I think, is quite nice. I like it. It does feel video gamey. It does feel board gamey. But I think, and also the name is quite good. Dusk City Outlaws. I think it captures it in one. I will say though, as always, there's no alt text, and that's especially not great if the cover doesn't have the name of the thing on it. And I'm guessing here, yeah, these are all images, so you can't tell what's in, which is fine. It's also square as well. I'm sure you've noticed. Again, makes sense because that's going to fit into the box, the physical box that comes out, because it's more of a board game than anything else. There's also 2 columns. Ugh, hate 2 columns, but it's fine. We'll get started. I'm just going to move in a little bit so people can. Oh, that's hasn't. I have to lock that. And where's this going? There we go. There we go. All right. So we've said this before, but Dusk City Outlaws is a role-playing game for 3 to 6 players set in the sprawling city of New Dunhaven. One player takes on the role of the Silver Judge, subsequently referred to as the Judge. And the remaining players take on the roles of criminals on the wrong side of the law, collectively known as the right kind of people to those who run in outlaw circles. I quite like, again, that's quite good. We've got those terminologies, so we've got right kind of people and Silver Judge as our names there. These criminals team up to form a crew and take on a job. Criminal enterprise broken to them by a third party. We've said all this before. Oh, was it not 16 before? 16 cartels? Hang on. I might have just been making this up, but I could have sworn it was 16. Hang on. Trying to find you. Where are you? Yes, I wish to learn more about your game. No, it is 8 cartels. I don't know why I thought it was 16. Clearly losing my mind on this Friday. Right, where is the PDF gone? There it is. So each member of the crew belongs to one of the 8 cartels that rule over the city's criminal underworld. These cartels have firmly defined turf, specialities, motives, and methods. They are all bound together by the arrangement, an agreement negotiated between all the cartels to preserve themselves against too much infighting. The cartels realise they have enough enemies without warring with one another, and that they all want the same thing: to get rich. The cartels agree to respect one another's turf, and while they allow some bickering and fighting, the arrangement forbids large-scale conflict and discourages revenge. To maintain this peace, the cartels have a job. When the cartels have a job they want done, they call upon a crew. The crew draws members from several cartels to pull off the job. Each cartel represented receives a cut of the take from that job, and the crew gains wealth, prestige, and influence, plus the promise of future jobs from those brokers. Once the job has been assigned, you, the characters in the crew, devise a plan, carry out the legwork to set into motion, pull off the scheme, despite inevitable complications, and survive long enough to get paid. This book contains all the rules that the players, so crew members and judge alike, will need to know to play the game. Excellent. Additionally, throughout the pages, you will find some examples about how these rules might show up during the game. These examples are highlighted in italicized blue text to separate them from the actual game rules. Amazing, very much like that as an accessibility thing, to keep it, to say where the play examples are. Very good. And there we've got bad guys you can root for. Although the players take on the role of criminals, this isn't a game of hard-edged crime drama or grim and gritty violence. This is a game about criminals you can root for. As players, your crew will be composed of people that, though they operate outside the law, have redeeming qualities and reasons to cheer for them. Your eclectic band of criminals should feel like heroes from Ocean's 11, Leverage, or Firefly. Sure, they're bad guys, and sometimes commit unsavoury acts, but in the end, you want to see these criminals succeed and watch them overcome situations against all odds. In many cases, the marks that your crew targets will be those in the city who had it coming to them in some way. Few, even among the law-abiding, are completely innocent, and many of the city's merchants, nobles, and powerful individuals have done things to deserve being robbed and exposed. Yes, my touchstone for this would be the great BBC drama Hustle. which I think is still a cracking thing. Should have had more women in it, though, personally speaking. If you can, it's a good idea to have at least one person in your group to read over the rulebook. Don't worry, guys, I got this. As well as a judge's rulebook to get a basic handle on the rules. Once you're ready to play, designate one player to be the judge, whilst the other players will be members of the crew who pull off the job. If you are the judge, take the judge's rulebook and choose one of the scenarios at the back and begin reading it over. Okay, let's have a quick look-see, shall we? Here's some. I want to. Oh, we don't even have table of contents here to tell us. Okay, that's just giving us some prompts. It's just at the back, huh? Okie dokie. Let me just. There's some great images here, though. But again, none of them are have alt text. Campaign play. So I've got creative scenarios, options and variants. There you go. There's an example of a job there. Okay, we'll refer to this then if we need to. Each scenario contains a brief description of the scenario's goal. Before the other players start making their characters, give them the basic idea of the kind of job the crew is about to undertake so they can choose specialities that might be useful during that job. Place a supply of influence tokens and advantage die and challenge die within easy reach of the players. Put the simple heat tokens and deck of enemies within your reach. Create a line of cards from the deck of time in view of the crew, alternating between day and night cards to create a timeline representing the segments of the crew has to complete the job. Wait, representing the segments the crew has to complete the job. Wait, what? Wait, what does that line makes no sense at all, right? Create a line of cards from the deck of time in view of the crew, alternating between day and night cards to create a timeline representing the segments the crew has to complete the job in, right? That feels a wrong bit at the end of that sentence. You also need a means of keeping time in 50-minute increments. If you're a member of the crew, choose one cartel and one speciality. 2 players may choose the same cartel if desired, but each player must select a unique speciality to ensure a well-rounded group. Some cartel and specialities generate a rare character. The crew can only have one rare character active at a time. Okay, so I guess then if everyone's, it's almost like you could create like a Westermarch game or Westmarch game, right? You could be like, whenever the judge is free, like, oh, I want to run a scenario from this book. Okay, who's around? Right, you create new characters, so you can. I like that. So it's already you're not having to be tied to one character constantly. You could bring your character, but then you're going to be in different crews and do different jobs. That's quite good. If you're playing with the deck of quirks, recommended only if some players have played before. Draw 3 random quirk cards. Pick 1 quirk card to keep and return the remaining cards to the deck. Take a character sheet, fill out the relevant information, and pick a name for your character. Take a set of percentile dice and take 1 influence token. Okay, those are the those tokens we saw before. Just checking what is. Okay, my phone keeps going off, so I just wanted to check it's not something too important. Once you've created your characters and the judge has finished reading over the scenario, it's time to begin. Like many good heist movies, the job begins with a montage. Each player, in turn, describes his or her character, speciality, and then briefly narrates a scene that conveys what the character is doing when the broker agents arrive with the job offer. This description shouldn't take long, but it provides a snapshot that gives the other players an idea of the character's personality. I feel like we should have that in bold or have that like a section, because it's this getting started character creation. What the judge does, it doesn't pick it out easily, right? That's why I'm just a bit like, it's kind of lobbed on at the end there. Also, I do think it's a little bit difficult to read. Like, it's quite tiny writing. I've zoomed in quite a bit on this sort of like paper textured background. I just think it's not like, it's not like things are in bold. So, for example, each player briefly narrates a scene. So do that in bold or something like that. Montage. I think just highlighting some words here, because otherwise it's just a lot of text, isn't it? It's just all a lot of text. That's not really broken up at all. So getting the job. Once the introductory character montage is complete, the job begins in earnest. The judge starts out by describing the scene where the crew meets with the broker, as defined in the scenario. The broker provides the crew with basic information, including the target, the score, and any special conditions under which the crew can gain extra respect. You can ask a few questions during this time, but most of the information most of the information you'll need will be attained through legwork. Yes, I would say maybe they will have it later, I'm not so sure, but I definitely would include like a terminology guide, perhaps, because like target, I know would mean target of the scenario, who the job is going to be about. The score is the reward, right? All that sort of thing. But I think again, just because I get the sense that this is supposed to be a family-friendly kind of game, just from the illustrations I've seen, some people might not have ever played this before, or have ever seen a heist movie and stuff like Ocean's 11, Leverage, and Firefly. I mean, they're not necessarily family-friendly films or TV shows, although Firefly possibly. Yeah, I mean, like for example, I know maybe this came out before it, but like the actual film, animated film, The Bad Guys would be a good one here, where they're all animals doing a heist. I thought that was a good film. Okay, planning and legwork. Once the crew has the job, characters retire to a secluded place to do some planning. This planning scene is considered to be part of the briefing from the broker, and it does not count against the job's time limit, though it functions like a normal planning scene in all other ways. After this initial planning session, the crew heads out in the city to start gathering information and laying down the groundwork for their plans. It is completely up to you how to pull off the job, so it's important to spend time early in the job collecting as much information as possible before hatching a decisive plan. Creating a plan in absence of information is a risky proposition. Once the characters have gathered the information they deem necessary, the crew finalizes the plan and goes into the city to lay the groundwork for that plan, prepares to enact it when the time is right. So this is going over what a scenario is. Okay, it's not gone about mechanics yet. It's just kind of like saying what's expected. So it's outlining that sort of structure, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that per se. I do think like already I'm like, what's the main mechanic though? What is it that I get yes or no from? I was thinking, I guess then maybe the unique selling point of this is that time limit with the cards and the day and night phases, which I do think is quite cool. Again, I'm always going to bring up Brindlewood Bay and the Between and the Gauntlet publishing games, but they have like moves that are tied to like, this is the day move, this is the night move. So there's not like, so again, certain moves or certain actions can only be taken at certain points during the day. So, but then actually having a physical, like, it is now, changing over cards and stuff like that and showing that you have 8 segments or something like that to complete the game in. Yeah, interesting. So pulling off the plan. Eventually, the planning, scheming, and preparing must come to an end, and the characters execute their plan. During the final scene, the heist goes down. The crew robs the gondola, or the assassination takes place. This is what everything has been building to. The judge also brings the full opposition of the crown, law-abiding citizens, to bear on the crew, making success a risky proposition, even with a strong plan. Nice try, Megadeth. I am gonna block you. Sorry, friend. Don't have time for spam. Getting paid. With the plan accomplished and the objective achieved, the crew will needs to survive and remain free from capture long enough to return to the broker, turn over evidence of their success, and get paid for the job. When that's done, it's time to kick back, relax, and rest on your laurels. At least until the broker comes calling once more. Okay, so that's the basic structure of what a game entails. Okay. So here's a quick example job. So here's a quick example of how a typical game sequence may go. Alright, I'm not going to read that out, but God, isn't that tiny writing? I'm pretty sure I hadn't moved the thing across. That's tiny writing, isn't it? So tiny. But look, it does split up into like day 1 there, night 1, day 2, night 2. But again, would make that bold. Or like actually have like maybe a table to read it through, because that is difficult to read, is it not? And yeah, no alt text either. Okay. Days, nights, and scenes. So time poses the supreme challenge that the crew needs to deal with while on the job. Most jobs impose a time limitation. Steal a piece of art before the week is done. Assassinate a merchant who will be leaving the city in 4 days. Knock over an armoured carriage as it delivers taxes to a crown counting house 2 days from now, and so on. So each day is divided up into 2 major segments: daytime and nighttime. During these segments, each player or group of players chooses one major goal they want to accomplish through their actions, which determines the nature of the scene or scenes that take place during that segment. Inconsequential minor tasks that pose little risk to the crew or job can be completed during this time too, with the judge's approval. Once each player has decided on a goal and a course of action towards accomplishing that goal, you play out these intentions in scenes. A scene is a period of time in which one or more player characters interact with the world around them. Most of the time, when you're playing a game, you're taking part in a scene of some kind. The judge decides when you transition from one scene to the next, indicating advancement in the story of the game. At the start of every day segment and night segment, the judge adds 1 heat to the heat pool, see heat below, for each player character in the game, representing the behind-the-scenes effort of the Crown to clamp down on the crime throughout the city. The judge tracks the progress of time by turning over the next card in the timeline from the deck of time. Okay. So this is one thing I'm going to just say here, just feeling it. This feels more board gamey. Like, will you be able to roleplay without that sort of impacting on the story? Like, what if you wanted to have, what it hasn't said in the character creation stuff. Do you have backstory? Do you have connection to the others? Because it feels very regimented in scenes. Like, I like the idea of like turning over cards and stuff to physically indicate the passing of time and goals and stuff, but I don't know, the way it's written, it just feels a bit like, and now you do this to win the game and win victory. And I'm like, I don't know. Planning scenes. So a key part of pulling off a job involves coming up with a plan of action. Each scenario provides the characters with scant information up front, requiring them to do the legwork to gather information and then hatch a scheme to pull off the job. Those who barge in unprepared will have a nominal chance of success. Without a distinct structure, it will be very easy for players to spend long stretches of time in the middle of the game talking about potential plans and not doing anything. To mitigate this, planning scenes cover iconic moments from heist movies and caper shows where the would-be criminals are sitting around talking and hatching their plan. A planning scene takes over the course of a daytime or nighttime segment, consuming that entire stretch of time. During the planning scene, all players discuss their overall scheme for the job and plan their next move. Before the planning scene begins, the judge asks the players to describe the place where the crew gathers to talk and hatch their plans. If you describe a setup that is particularly cinematic or in keeping with the heist genre, and if it is the first time during the job that the crew has used that setup, the judge usually awards the crew 1 influence, which any members of the crew can spend. The location you choose should be somewhere secure where the crew can work without being interrupted, and crew members do not generate heat for being conspicuous during planning scenes. Okay. At the start of a planning scene, the judge starts a 50-minute timer. If that timer expires before you are done with the discussion, the judge presents a choice. Either start another planning scene, consuming the next daytime or nighttime scene, or begin the next segment's legwork or drama scenes. That seems... Ooh, interesting. I will say, one of my pet peeves when I'm playing in a game is planning scenes. But because people, there'll be discussions about stuff, but then people go, but what about this risk? What about this risk? And then not offer a solution. I'm a big fan of everyone, like, if they disagree with something, you have to offer another solution. Or if you see a problem, try and find a way around it. Or just be like, oh, there's this. I don't know if I've got anything to solve it, though. Because I agree, planning takes bloody ages, and then you play it the next session, and it all goes to pot because you couldn't predict what was going to happen, etc. So I do like the idea of a timer. I do feel that's cruel like, I don't know. You can keep going, and you lose a segment of time, or you begin the next. I think it's just good to give that straight choice. It does feel, again, I don't know, maybe I feel a bit cruel, that's it. But then again, I don't know. No, actually, no, I'm coming around to it. I like it. Like, okay, the 50 minutes are up. What have you got? Cool. And any other discussion, or we start again? So yeah, no, I do like it. It just keeps it to a minimum. It keeps people focused, I guess. So what does it say up here? It says, leaving a planning scene early. So during a planning scene, a player might decide that the time is better spent out in the city taking action and ask if her character can leave early. Because the day/night segment cycle and planning scenes represents large times in abstract, the character gains no advantage in doing so. The discussion at the table might be short, but that time period also covers mundane details beyond the actual planning that would otherwise take up time. In general, once a planning scene starts, the members of the crew participating in that scene are occupied until the next day or night segment starts. Similarly, it is important to note that all the members of your crew must do legwork at the same time, or plan at the same time. You cannot have some members of the crew planning and some doing legwork at the same segment. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it's just to keep people on target. So I guess I feel like this person who made this game is like, I cannot abide planning and I can't abide shopping or talking. So yeah, this actually feels like a very roleplay light game. I assume you're just going to discuss it in person how to defeat, how to win the game. So I don't know. There's an example there which we're going to not read for now. Abstracting time. In a game that involves a lot of planning and in which time is an issue, players naturally try to cram as many actions in as possible in a short amount of time as possible, which can bog down play and requires the judge to deal with inconsequential actions. Having each player or groups of players focus on a single goal for each day or night segment creates structure, whilst time pressure on the players whilst time pressure on the players and making it all the more important that they generate a plan and execute it. Additionally, day and night segments abstract the incidental activities that the characters would be doing throughout the day, so eating, sleeping, travelling through the city, and so forth, rather than requiring the judge to meticulously track how long it takes for something to happen. I get it. Oh, and we've got some summary. I like having summary boxes, that's always good. So legwork scene summaries. Each time the crew does legwork, each member of the crew takes a lead on one legwork scene during the day or night segment. Legwork scenes play out as follows. So the leading crew member describes the scene's premise. The judge describes any inherent obstacles in that scene. The judge might spend heat to introduce one or more complications into the scene. Any other players may choose to join in on the scene. The crew takes turns in describing how each obstacle and complication is dealt with. If all the obstacles and complications are successfully dealt with, the leading crew member attempts the main goal of the scene, making rolls as necessary. The judge provides the leading crew member with the outcome of the scene. Okay, so it's very collaborative. Legwork scenes. So the best plans don't come to fruition after a few hours of talk. They require the crew to travel through the city and do some legwork. During each day or night segment, there's not planning a scene or the final scene. Each character takes the lead on one legwork scene. Legwork scenes involve hitting the streets to gather information by listening to gossip, finding and tailing a mark to learn his or her habits, seeking out a building you're targeting and casing the joint, and reaching out to your cartel and other contacts to lay the groundwork for the heist, con, or assassination to come. When you want to use a day or night segment to do some legwork, the judge asks each player in turn to describe the premise for the legwork scene his or her character is taking the lead on. You can use the following basic template to help set the scene. So, specify one thing you want to get out of the scene, a specific piece of information, some asset or resource, the cooperation or aid of an individual, and so on, and describe the place you are going to get it. You then have to explain how you're going to get it, and if necessary, who you will interact with to get what you want. So you see there, it's highlighted the important things, and they've in bold. Why hasn't it done it on all the other things? Because God, look at this. It is absolutely impenetrable, these blocks of text, huh? The judge can spend heat to introduce complications and describe any obstacles inherent in the scene the player has outlined. So like the presence of security, suspicious observers, agents of the crown, physical obstructions, a target's reluctance to cooperate, or other impediments. Then, any other players can decide to be a part of the scene, and as a group you explain how the crew is going to deal with each complication and obstacle. Each complication and inherent obstacle described by the judge needs to be addressed in some way. If any obstacles or complications remain in the scene, the judge might rule that the legwork scene fails, or add challenge dice, see below, to rolls to make what you get out of the to add challenge dice to rolls to made to get what you want out of this to rolls made to get what you want out of the scene. Right. It's a bit oddly worded, that one, isn't it? The judge might ask for one or more checks to determine the outcome of the scene and whether obstacles and complications are dealt with. Alternatively, the judge can simply narrate the outcome of the scene based on the player's description, and as is usually the case in scenes where failure is highly unlikely or uninteresting. If rolls are necessary, the judge decides what skill each player needs to roll, taking the player's suggestions for specific skills, and adds any advantage dice or challenge dice to the rolls based on the nature of the scene and the player's descriptions. Additionally, you can spend influence to describe ways in which the characters can succeed in dealing with obstacles and complications without having to roll dice. So any given player can take the lead on one legwork scene per day or night segment. Each player can participate in any number of legwork scenes. Once every player has taken the lead on one legwork scene, the day or night segment ends, and the characters can do either more legwork or go back to further planning. Your characters have a chance to touch base with one another between legwork scenes and communicate any pertinent information from previous scenes, though you should save larger discussions for planning scenes. Unlike drama scenes, most legwork scenes use abstracted, narrated descriptions of what happens during that scene. They rarely involve significant dialogue or moment-by-moment descriptions of action. However, if you fail to roll to deal with an object or complication, the scene might change from a legwork scene to a drama scene. Okay. Ugh. I'm going to read out this play example because I want to just make sure. So we go round. Ask each player in turn to describe the premise for a legwork scene of his and her character. So how many scenes do we have? Do we just decide on one that takes up the whole thing, or is it like 3 to 4 ones that you're doing per legwork, per scene, per day phase, per night phase? You know? Read this. Let's read the play example. So, Brett is playing Antonio Stiletti, a family brawler and a member of the same crew as Crow. During their last planning scene, the crew decided they needed to take out the head of the armored coach's security team so they can replace him with one of their allies. Antonio is going to take the lead in the legwork scene to do so. Brett describes what he wants to get out of the scene, so badly injuring the security chief, and says he's going to lie in wait for the security chief outside of his favourite tavern, the Lucky Boatman, in the Brass Cat district of Little Tiona. Tiona? Yeah. The judge describes one obstacle. There is a festival going on in that area of the tavern, making it highly likely that Antonio will be spotted by witnesses. And Jessica decides to send along Crow to act as a lookout and deal with the obstacle. With Crow on watch, Antonio is able to get the drop on the security chief and rough him up as planned. Okay. Fortune favours the bold. When a member of the crew takes the lead on a legwork scene, the player narrates the premise of the scene. If a player describes a particularly bold, risky, thrilling, or dangerous stratagem, the kind of scene that makes the heist genre feel tense and exciting, the judge can award one influence to the leading crew member after the scene ends. Given the choice between breaking into the magistrate's house to steal a document or stand in line at the clerk's office with a well-worded request letter, go for breaking and entering. Sure, it's riskier, but a criminal's reputation is built on the boldness of the plan. The judge can also reward players with influence for exceptionally daring or thrilling actions during the scene. Okay. And then we have drama scenes. Legwork scenes involve gathering information and laying the groundwork for the job, but eventually the crew likely needs to attempt something risky to pursue the goal, something that is not only has a chance to fail, but can put one or more members of the crew in jeopardy. When a character attempts an action that involves significant risk of exposing the crew's plans, such as beating up members of the private security force, tipping off a mark or the city watch, or anything that could potentially generate a significant amount of heat, the judge can decide that that scene becomes a drama scene. In a drama scene, the moment-by-moment actions of the crew play out in such a way that the players and the crew and the judge have time to react to individual actions by the members of the crew. So it's almost like combat, right? Drama scenes often involve making multiple die rolls, playing out dialogue, and a back and forth interplay between the crew and judge-controlled characters. Both planning and legwork scenes can turn into drama scenes. If the crew members are plotting their next move when the city watch busts down the door, then that dramatic turn of events warrants an in-the-moment resolution to the scene. If an in-progress legwork scene becomes a drama scene, any players not currently involved in the scene have the option to join the scene by spending 20 luck. Gosh, see luck and wounds below. How fortunate that character was just a few streets away when the events took a turn for the worse. I think it's good to be able to get into scenes if it turns bad, so you're not left out, you're not doing anything. I think that's very fair. Although, how much luck do you get in these games? Gosh. Feels like a very high price to pay, but maybe you get luck all the time. I don't know. Maybe it's like Call of Cthulhu. The player describes why his or her character was in the area and how they joined the scene, and that play proceeds as usual with that character now a part of the scene. Taking turns. During most drama scenes, the intensity of the action requires each character to take turns to resolve fights between characters, chases through crowded streets, and other exciting sequences. Taking turns allows each character involved in the scene to take actions, alternating with other characters and antagonists to give everyone a chance to get involved. Seconds matter during these scenes, though something like a chase scene where you're covering a lot of ground may take place in a minute-by-minute time frame. When the judge indicates that you're going to take turns, all the judge-controlled characters participating in the scene act first, and then you and the crew and members of the crew each can act in turn. Interesting that the judge goes first there. You can continue alternating back and forth between judge-controlled characters and then crew until the drama scene ends. Each time it is your crew's chance to act, you can collectively choose the order in which you take a turn. So you could always change who goes first in your crew order. Cool. When your turn comes up, you can take one action and in most cases move a short distance. Since the time span of the scene is variable, the nature of the action you take depends on the situation. In a fight scene, an action can be a single swing of a sword, dashing down the length of a city street, or leaping from one balcony to another. During some scenes, a single action can encompass more complex efforts. A single action, and usually a single check or attack, might represent what your character does over a lengthy period of time, such as what transpires over several minutes of a foot chase. When your turn comes up, you describe the action of what you want to take. The judge then determines if you need to make any checks or attacks, and once those are resolved, describes the outcome of your action. Okay, we're nearly 10 pages into this, and it's describing, it's breaking it down by the structures and stuff. I still don't know what the main mechanic is. Presumably it's a D100 check or something, or a D10 check, but what is it? I don't know. I think you should have had it somewhere by now, surely. Again, we're not going to read through that. I think I've got that now. And then we're going to final scene. Eventually, all the planning and legwork pays off when the crew's plans is put into motion. When the scene begins, the judge describes the environments where the plan will be executed, outlines known obstacles, and spends heat during complications. Executing the plan consumes the entire day or night segment in which it takes place and plays out in, like a drama scene, with a few exceptions. Any heat, explained in the next page, generated by the characters during that scene goes directly into the heat pool. Enemies in a scene don't usually take turns unless they become aware of the characters, or the characters risk drawing their attention. However, the judge can choose to have some enemies and take a turn anyway. The judge can spend heat to introduce new complications on enemies' turns, in addition to doing so when a player fails a roll. Typically, the scene in which the crew executes the plan starts off slowly and grows tenser as new complications come into play, forcing you to improvise. Chances are, by the time the crew members have lost some luck, either due to perils in previous scenes or pushing their luck to succeed, maybe it's a D100 push your roll sort of thing, and the heat pool is quite full. And the heat pool is likely quite full. The crew should enter the scene prepared to adapt to new challenges that pop up, since the judge has no reason not to spend every point of heat in the pool. When the crew finishes the score, all members reach a safe location, or are arrested or killed, or if unlucky, the scene and the job ends. And then we've got a big example here of the final scene for the coach robbery. I feel like, yes, it is in blue. I just think it should be in a box or something, perhaps. Heat. This is the heat icon there, which isn't got alt text. The cartels of New Dunhaven's underworld subvert the foundations of the city law as a routine fact of their business, but the arrangement demands that each cartel does its best to work subtly. Criminal activity is best kept to the shadows, because while the cartels are powerful, they're also outnumbered by the vast majority of honest, law-abiding citizens of the city. Wealthy as they are, cartels are no match for the deep pockets of the regent, or the king's ransom locked away in the vaults of the local counting houses. Too much crime, too much chaos, and too much disruption of the peaceful lives of ordinary citizens focuses the attention on these wealthy and powerful people onto the cartels. Attention that, if not deflected, makes life short and painful for the right kind of people. The vigilance and enmity of the City Watch and others who oppose the action of the cartels is represented by heat. Heat is a method of measuring how much peace has been disrupted by the player's character's actions, and how swiftly and how strongly authority figures respond. Heat is generated by crew's activities. Simply operating a job is enough to cause some amount of reaction from the city. Heat comes from agents of the Crown working behind the scenes to stymie? It must be stymie. Yeah. The cartels, members of rival crews keeping tabs on the crew's activities, high-profile crimes committed by crew members, and even law-abiding citizens observing these suspicious characters as they come and go throughout the city. Every day the crew spends working the streets increases the chance of provoking a reaction from the Watch. Even if no physical evidence links the characters to a scene, eventually all crimes come to light. The nobleman notices that his purse is missing, or the mark tries to cash in her fraudulent banknote. Think of heat as an abstract way of measuring the general mood of the city towards the character's actions. When the heat is low, it's business as usual for law-abiding citizens of the church. Of the church? Gosh, my brain is not with it today, folks. I apologise. It's business as usual for the law-abiding people of the city, and there's no real cause for alarm. No one is really thinking about the seedier aspects of the city, any more than one usually does in a cosmopolitan environment, and the City Watch and other authority figures focus on their usual duties. As the characters' actions generate more heat, the city grows more sensitive to the criminal element. Law-abiding citizens become more watchful of their surroundings, wary of rumours and rampant crime spread. The City Watch becomes more suspicious and vigilant, responding to the demands of ordinary citizenry to keep them safe. Government officials dedicate more resources to policing the city, looking to stem a tide of illegal activity before it becomes a crime wave. Merchants and nobles increase their private security, and city officials put pressure on their underlings to restore order and bring the criminals to justice. Otherwise, heads will roll. In the worst cases, entire sections of the city go on lockdown, with the City Watch instituting curfews and imposing martial law-like conditions over large swaths of the city. The heat pool represents the combined wariness and crime-halting efforts of both law-abiding citizenry and the agents of the crown. The judge can spend heat from the pool to introduce complications. The more heat in the pool, the more dangerous the job becomes. The most common events to add heat to the heat pool are listed in the table below. Additionally, the judge can always rule that a particularly reckless or chaotic action generates more heat depending on the situation. So, we have interesting. So, like every time we go to a new scene, a new day or night scene, we'll have 1 heat per character. So if we have 4 people in our crew, that's 4 heat. And then here, if they go into an area which is conspicuous, that's 2. So if 3 of them went to go, scout out or case the joint, that's 6 on there. And then we've got mostly 2s and stuff. Look at that one at the bottom there. The crew kills any number of law-abiding citizens. That adds 6 straight away. We've not had any content warnings or safety stuff come up with this game so far. I've got to be honest. What is the audience? What are we aiming for? It felt like to me, like I said, I know I interpret it as a family-friendly sort of thing. Is it more graphic than that? Are people going to be committing murders and people are going to properly die? You know? It feels like this should be more of a swashbuckling, like pulp adventure, like, haha, I'll get you next time, gadgets, that sort of thing, rather than like the sort of grim underworld of like Blades in the Dark. That's what it feels like to me. Maybe I don't know. What do other people think? The judge determines whether the heat is added to the heat pool immediately or between scenes. Any activity that seems strange, suspicious, or overtly dangerous or illegal that takes place in plain sight or hearing of law-abiding citizens counts as a witness event and should have its heat added to the heat pool right away. Any such activity performed discreetly or in a remote locale that does not usually add heat to the pool unless the scene ends, even if the effects of that activity will be obvious later. There can never be more than 30 heat in the heat pool. That should be in bold for sure, because that seems to be quite important. Any crime you commit whilst directly dealing with a complication the judge spends the heat they're introduced to does not in turn generate heat, provided that the complication was introduced in the current scene. So when the judge spends heat to have the City Watch try to arrest you whilst you're doing your planning, the ensuing fight and chase do not generate any heat. That's a cool, quick example there, so that's quite good. You may still generate heat as a result of rolling drawbacks on the challenge die. Okay, that's a great image there. I like the uniform of the city guard there. Being conspicuous. During legwork and drama scenes, your character will be travelling around New Dunhaven trying to pull off your plan. Whilst doing so, you might find yourself in a part of the city where you stand out based on your general appearance and demeanour. So for example, the City Watch keeps the Nobles District streets clean of riffraff, so a rough-looking member of the Forgotten Street Gang draws more attention than a finely dressed Vesper aristocrat. Your cartel sheet provides information on your appearance and tells you where you will be conspicuous. Oh, okay, interesting. When you partake in scenes in parts of the city where you are conspicuous, you generate heat. As we said before, this gives 2 heat per character. You can disguise yourself to fit in, but you need to take up some time to do it. You're usually spending a legwork scene to come up with a disguise. Oh gosh, it's really breaking it down into the nitty-gritty stuff, isn't it? For me, that would just be a roll to see how good your disguise was, rather than like you waste a whole day doing it and then you roll for it and then it's rubbish. Like, I feel like you should spend one or the other. Like, either you do the time, you spend the resource to create a good outfit, and then that's that, or you roll. Not both of them, which I assume is what it's going to tell us in a second. Of course, just because you change your appearance doesn't mean you won't still stand out, and the judge might ask you to roll dice to determine how well you craft the disguise. Furthermore, appearing to be someone you're not requires attention to detail, so the judge might add challenge dice to your rolls made to interact socially with other people whilst you are disguised, representing your discomfort with your altered appearance. Getting things done. I can see success and failure here, so hopefully we're going to find out what the actual game mechanic is in a second. So as play progresses, the judge sets up a scene for the players by outlining the tasks and potential challenges involved, and then the players describe what they want to do in that scene. Many times the judge simply agrees with that what the players wants to happen does in fact happen, and then the judge reveals the consequences of the character's actions and how that affects the scene. Sometimes, though, the outcome of a character's effort is not certain, requiring the players to roll dice to determine the result of the action. When you want your character to take action within a scene, you tell the judge what you want to do. The judge then determines which of the 3 results is most appropriate based on what you described. There is no chance of your character failing to accomplish the goal or action, so you automatically succeed and move on. Your character may be able to succeed on the task or action, but there's also a chance of failure. The game mechanics decide the outcome. There is no chance of your character successfully completing the task or action, so you must choose another course of action. God, just say like that doesn't. You don't need 3 examples there. It feels like it's been written out for someone who's never played a role-playing game or a board game before, but it feels so patronising. Maybe I'm misreading it slightly, but it just feels a bit like. Okay. Gosh. And also this formatting the layout is really bugging me. The most commonly used mechanic is the check. You make a check when you attempt a task that the judge decides have a chance of failure. All your skills have a numerical rating ranging between 0 to 100%. So it is the sort of Call of Cthulhu basic, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called, the basic role-playing system, D100 system. This number is called your chance of success because the number tells you exactly how much of a chance you have to succeed on a task when rolling that skill. So if you have the stab somebody skill, as we all do, at 80%, you know that when the judge calls for a roll, you have an 80% chance of successfully stabbing someone, meaning you are likely to succeed about 4 out of every 5 tries. The judge can advise you which skill to use, although the choice is often obvious. Roll percentile dice, and if the number rolled is equal to or less than your chances of success, you succeed. If it is greater than your chance of success, you might fail. So for example, if you rolled a 93 on the stab someone roll, you fail to hit your target. There's an example there. Success and failure. So the judge determines what happens when you succeed or fail on a roll. Failing on a roll doesn't necessarily mean that you fail at the task. When you fail on the roll, the judge just chooses whether or not the task fails or whether you succeed, but either way, the judge can spend heat to introduce a complication to it. Oh, I see, right. So when you fail, there's the opportunity for the judge to make a hard move against you. That's what it's saying, by spending the heat. I get it. If the judge chooses the latter option, he or she might ask you to describe what happened during your attempt that drew suspicion, and introduce a complication. Okay, weird. If the judge chooses, however, when a character fails on a roll to make a physical attack, it is simply a failure. The attack misses, and the judge does not introduce a new complication to the scene. In a fight scene, each participant usually makes multiple attacks, introducing complications with each fail, and introducing complications with each failure would bog things down. This absolutely should be 2 paragraphs, right? Because it's talking about combat there. And it's like, what? Oh. Yeah, this formatting is doing my head in ever so slightly. So pushing your luck. Even when fate is against you, a talented criminal can take risks and apply a surge of extra effort to pull off an action just as it looks like it will fail. If you roll the dice and would fail the roll, you can choose to push your luck. When you push your luck, you spend luck to increase your chance of success up to the point where you would succeed with the roll you've made. Okay. So they've combined pushing your... in my head I thought, push the rolls, what it was, but no, it is spending luck. It is a spending luck from the Call of Cthulhu thing. So for example, you spend your luck in this way in increments of 10, increasing your chances of... Oh, wait, no, I've got that wrong then. increasing your chance of success by rolling the same amount. So if your chance of success equals to or exceeds the number you've rolled, you now succeed on a roll. So for example, if you rolled a 78 to case a jump when you have a 65% chance of success, you must push your luck twice, increasing your chance of success by a total of 20. So you add that 20 to the chance. I see. So that makes you the chance of success 85, which is now higher than the 78 you rolled, resulting in a success. Right. Okay. So it's more like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay then. I understand now. Okay. Yeah, so I assumed push. I thought it was going to say push your roll, which is you mean you roll again, and then it's got luck. I was like, oh, spending luck. No, third time's the charm, isn't it? You can push your luck only when making a check that isn't an attack, unless you have a character benefit that says otherwise. For each 10 luck you spend when pushing your luck, you also get to roll 1 challenge die, as described below, as part of that roll. What? Why would you do that? You can never spend so much luck in this way that you would add more than 4 challenge die to the roll, including any challenge you might have already had on the roll. Thus, if you make the roll with 2 challenge die, you can spend up to 20 luck when pushing your luck to add more challenge die. Why would I need to... Why we're not rolling more die, we're just changing the chance of success. Why is it making it more complicated? Oh, for goodness sake. So continuing the previous example, I'm going to read this out. If Logan rolled an 84 instead of 54, their character would have failed to lift the document from the merchant's coat. However, Logan could choose to have the character push its luck. In this case, they would need to spend 20 luck to increase their chance for up to 85%. Yeah. Yes. Wait. No. They'd have to spend 30, right? Basically would have to spend 20 luck to increase his chances by 20 to 85. But here, it's rolled a 54. Oh no, they've rolled... Yeah, so that's wrong. That example's wrong. Which would then be a successful roll. Then Logan would roll 2 challenge die and deal with any drawbacks. Right, so it is a roleplay thing, is a challenge die. Why didn't you say this earlier? Oh. I'm getting a bit cross about this, sorry. Trying again. In general, there is no trying again. If you roll and fail, you fail. Further attempts at the same task should be fruitless unless you invent a radically different approach to the same task and the judge agrees to allow it. Once a roll has been failed, that usually means that the task is beyond the character's skill and no amount of trial and error that can bring it within the player's grasp. There are 2 exceptions to this rule. We've got attacks and judge's discretion. Attacks, so failing to attack someone successfully does not mean that it is beyond your ability, only that this particular attempt failed. You can try again, although you'll be making an attack during a drama scene, you need to wait till your next turn. The judge's discretion. If the situation changes mid-scene, perhaps as a result of the player's actions, making the circumstances of your attempt significantly different, the judge, there's a capital thing there for some reason, can let you attempt the roll again on a subsequent turn. Oh, excuse me. On a subsequent turn, usually with extra challenge dice as pressure starts to build or time begins to run out. Right, now we have advantage dice and challenge dice. So I assume this would be number related. Actually, I wonder if they're going to be almost like the Fantasy Flight, like the Star Wars sort of like, it's like, oh, you succeed, but at a cost, and oh, a triumph, that sort of thing. I wonder if it's going to give you like an extra role play flavor to the role. The details of a given situation can affect the likelihood of success regardless of your skills or attributes. These circumstances include environmental factors such as extreme temperatures, driving rain, distracting noises, and so on, good planning, the repercussions of previous actions, and even simply being particularly bold or foolhardy. These circumstances affect what additional dice you roll when making an attack or check. Most of the time, the judge determines when a circumstance comes into play. If the judge determines that you have positive circumstances working in your favour, you roll a number of advantage die along with your percentile die. They are custom 8-sided die included with this game. The judge can choose up to a maximum of 4 advantage die when you roll to express how good circumstances favour you. The more advantage die you roll, the greater the chance of elements in the scene turning into your favour. Advantage die represents the fruits of the crew's efforts to prepare for certain aspects of the job, and also apply when a crew member's background or history perfectly aligns with the situation. I'm going to take a drink here. Similarly, when the judge determines that negative circumstances are working against you, you roll a number of challenge die, or dice, along with your percentile dice. These are custom 10-sided dice, included with the game, and the judge can add up to a maximum of 4 challenge dice to your roll to express how poor circumstances are working against you. The more challenge dice you roll, the greater the challenge of elements in the scene going wrong. Challenge dice represents the risks associated with the task being attempted, as well as times when the circumstances of a scene are weighted against the crew members. Advantage die and challenge die don't affect your chances of success. Instead, they represent the possibility for unexpected positive or negative outcomes, regardless of whether you succeed. Character abilities and other game mechanics can add advantage dice or challenge dice to your roll, regardless of how many factors you add. Regardless of how many factors you add, tell you to add a number of challenge dice or advantage dice or challenge dice, including the judge's determination of a difficulty of a situation. You never roll more than 4 advantage dice and 4 challenge dice in any given attack or check. Oh, there's too many elements. We've got the spending of heat, we've got spending of luck, and we've got like just simplify it down. We don't need these at all. Like, have the push the roll thing or spend the luck thing. It feels just a lot to add onto it, and it feels unnecessary. Like for example, if you roll, there's a thing with like in Call of Cthulhu or any D100 system where it's like, oh, you got under half. That's a hard success, and that gives you a bonus or something like that, rather than like getting more dice out. It feels like a lot of tact right now. In an alternative version of the previous example, the judge takes into account the circumstances surrounding Vasili's attempt to lift the document. The scene is taking place in a darkened supper club, and the merchant has already consumed a few alcoholic drinks. So the judge decides to add 2 advantage dice to the roll. However, the document is very important to the merchant and he's protective of it, so the judge also adds 1 challenge die to roll to reflect his caution. Okay, so here we go. They don't affect your chances of success. Instead, they represent the idea of difficult tasks, introducing more chances for something to go wrong. While easier tasks create more opportunities for success. You can interpret the granted number of advantage die and challenge dice as follows. Yeah, so it just goes through the things like 1 to 4, like at 4 advantage dice, the circumstances could not be better for you, which is pretty good. What is going on? Sorry. Yes, I know that. God's sake. And the same with challenge dice as well. God, we're only like, we're about halfway through. I don't know. I'm not feeling this. I don't know about you guys. I'm really not feeling this at all. Boons and drawbacks. So advantage dice and challenge dice don't determine whether you succeed or fail. That is determined by the roll of the percentile dice compared against your chance of success. So I do like that in D100 systems that you might not succeed, but it doesn't mean that somebody else might not succeed at the same check because they've got a higher chance of success depending on their background. I don't mind that. I like individual difficulties for players and characters. I don't mind that. If at least one of your advantage dice comes up showing a boon symbol, which is here, again no alt text to describe what it looks like, you have a boon in addition to the outcome of your check or attack. It is a positive twist on a situation, an unexpected turn of events in your favour. If you roll a boon, an unexpected positive consequence results from your action in addition to success or failure at the attempt. The most common boons involve gaining additional information that can help your crew on the job, or reducing heat that you have generated in that scene. If at least one of your challenge dice comes up showing a drawback symbol, which is shown here, it's like a skull, you have a drawback in addition to your outcome of your check or attack. A drawback is a negative side effect of your action you're attempting, a twist of fate that can cause trouble for you or your allies. If you roll a drawback, an unexpected negative consequence results from your action, in addition to your success or failure at the attempt. In most common drawbacks involve increasing the heat generated by your actions. The judge usually asks you to describe a way in which you arouse suspicion or cause for concern for the citizenry with your action. It is possible to end up with both boons and drawbacks on the same roll, especially when you have advantage dice and challenge dice added to your roll from different sources. When this happens, each boon roll cancels out a roll drawback. Are you kidding me? Oh, God. I thought it was going to have like several things, perhaps, but that it makes sense that it would cancel out. But why even bother rolling at all? I don't know. Once you roll the dice, simply set aside each boon and drawback pair as though you never rolled those dice, and then resolve the check or attack as usual with whatever dice rolls. So you could roll like three positive dice or whatever they're called, the boon dice, advantage dice, and 2 challenge dice, and if you get 2 on both, it just cancels out the whole thing, like two good and 2 bad. I think you should just cancel them out from the beginning. Just a waste. And in that case, then like advantage disadvantage, like each dice should have like boon icons and drawback icons on each of them. So you just have one, you know? Like you have it as a D8 or a D10, and you have an equal number of sides that could be a challenge or a advantage. Oh. I think I woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, guys. It feels so convoluted, all this stuff, and we've only just got into the mechanics and stuff, and I'm just like, it's a D100 system. But then we're spending our luck, and then we're having this extra die. It's just a lot more stuff which we do not need. In addition to this, like, fixed timeline of board game elements, which I like. I like the idea of, like, we're keeping it tight, but it is treating it like a board game. And like min-maxing stuff, and I was like, well, where's the roleplay stuff? That comes from those influence tokens, which we don't really know what those do, other than they add stuff. I think that's what they said. Do they add advantage die, or they just make things? Oh no, you spend them to get rid of an obstacle. Too much stuff, guys. The judge determines the outcome of the boons and drawbacks that you roll. Boons and drawbacks do not change the fact that you succeeded or failed, but they do alter the way you succeeded or failed. Like, we've said this 3 times now. I think it's not sure of it either. Typically, the judge uses boons and drawbacks as a way to heighten the tension of the scene, change the tone of the scene, or propel the action into a new scene entirely. So one thing I really love about, like, because I did play the Star Wars Fantasy Flight games a little bit. And what I liked about it was that you could read the dice. It took a little while to learn how to read the dice. But like, oh, I succeed, but with some threat. Oh, I fail, but with a advantage. You know, like it was all contained in one. It was just reading the symbols on the dice rather than like, okay, we're rolling a D100 percentile dice, and then we're rolling some abstract other dice. Like, just contain it to one dice roll. You know. Helping someone else. In general, no more than one player rolls dice in an attempt of a particular task. If 2 characters are searching a room for a hidden compartment, only one player rolls to case the joint. If 2 or more players combine their efforts, they might grant 1 advantage die to the roll, regardless of how many people are helping, but only one person rolls the dice. If the roll fails, that's it, the attempt fails. Okay, clearly somebody else has had problems with people going, but I want to roll. Another player cannot make another roll to attempt the same task. Well, why not? Why not? Okay, because each of you, like, casing the joint, one person might be really good at it, and the other person might not. But it doesn't. I don't think that matters too much. It's not a set DC. I think I just don't want to do advantage dice. to help someone with and yeah, if you were helping someone, wait a minute. If you were helping someone, you should just give them a bonus dice to they should be able to re-roll the D100 and take the lower number, rather than adding an advantage dice, which doesn't have an effect on their success for the outcome. This is... To help someone with a task, you must describe a reasonable means of doing so, and the judge must agree. You do not have to be good at whatever task is being attempted, you just need a reasonable explanation for how you are helping out. Helping out in advance. So your efforts in a legwork scene can generate positive applications in a later scene. With the judge's permission, you may be able to spend a legwork scene performing some task that helps the efforts of another member of the crew, though done in advance and not requiring you to be part of the same scene. Fine. Judge's option, dumb luck. Not a fan of the dumb there, guys, but like maybe like what's the word, like just so obvious luck or something, like just random luck. Sometimes a player asks a question so purely dependent on luck that no amount of character skills or abilities applies. This usually occurs when players ask questions about the area where the scene is taking place in, like wondering if there are any buildings under construction in a particular area. That should have absolutely been edited in some way. Like, why would you need under construction? You don't need that last bit of the sentence there. At the judge's option, the players can roll to see how lucky that character is. The player may spend 10 luck and then make a check with 1 advantage die and 1 challenge die, with the success being equal to the character's current luck. So it's just a luck check. Success means that the character means the luck pans out and the character finds what he or she wants. So I don't mind the spending of luck thing to do a luck check. I quite like that. I just don't. Why would I have advantage die or disadvantage die? Like it's just to help you inform what the chance of success is there. So like anytime you're like, oh yeah, there are buildings there, but naturally there's going to be people working on them. Oh, is that image pixelated? Sorry. I think it is a little bit, isn't it? Around here, around the tassels. That is a shame. It's a good image, and it's been slightly blown up a little bit. Influences. So all player characters have access to a resource called influence that can be spent during the game to help formulate or execute a plan. Influence represents the character's social connections and pull with other people. It can denote strong friendships, favours owed, people who are intimidated by you, and any other social connection that can be leveraged to your advantage. It can also represent your access to physical supplies, material goods, and general wealth that can be bartered with, traded, and spent to your benefit, all obtained from your cartel's holdings. Influence is an abstract representation of wealth and authority, and its usage can change within the context of each scene. Each player starts with the job with 1 influence, and the crew begins the job with 1 influence in the communal pool, the crew's influence, from the planning scene at the start of the job. Any player can spend a crew influence, but you can only spend your any player can spend the crew influence, but only you can spend your personal influence pool. Then we don't have the boldness for saying influence and stuff, which I think would be important here to just keep it highlighted. A player can gain more influence by attempting bold, daring, and risky endeavours, when taking the lead on legwork. You can spend influence in these ways to use a benefit that specifically calls for you to spend influence, so there's a payment there. To use your cartel's wealth, connections, or resources in one of the ways described on your cartel sheet, to activate like a power of some sort, or for some other benefit that you describe and the judge agrees on. To complete a goal without generating heat or allowing the judge to introduce complications. So it's like almost like a GM intrusion there. If you can justify it, you can spend influence to avoid rolling dice during the legwork scenes. To give an allied in the same scene 2 advantage die on a roll. You must justify how your expenditure of influence provides your ally with an advantage on the roll he or she is about to make, and the judge must agree that makes sense and is plausible. But wait, is helping out? No. So why would... So, yeah, hang on, the helping out stuff, you get 1 advantage die if the judge agrees. But then you could be like, well, I want to spend an influence and I give them some advantage. Because that's roughly the same thing. And then when the judge tells you to. Usually this happens when you try to accomplish a task that requires more effort than your personal actions could account for. Like trying to bribe a magistrate to obtain a more lenient sentence for a fellow cartel member. The judge might ask you to spend 1 influence to cover the bribe. Oh, we haven't even got onto conflicts yet. Oh, gosh. I've got half an hour left. Okay, I'm going to just switch through. I'm going to have a look. Campaign play. Alright, so you can do campaign play. So I'm just going to switch through current characters. Also, a little bit pixelated, this image. Some examples, some story conflicts. Story rewards. Cartel rewards, so you can unlock stuff. Sure. Retirement rewards. So if you've gained at least 3 story rewards, you can then retire a character. Okay, and then a rule reference. Right. Ugh. Okay, what I'll do, I'm going to go through the combat thing, the conflicts, sorry. And then we'll end it there. I'm not feeling this game at all. I feel it's way overly complicated. I don't even know who it's for. And it feels like there's a lot of extra stuff we don't need, but it's done it, and that's why it's trying to justify the cost of it, perhaps, when getting the physical version of it. Like, we've not even gone through what character creation is. Maybe that's in the judges thing. But there's no, that's a good point. There's no table of contents in these books either. So it's very hard to find out where anything is. Yeah, this is frustrating. Maybe I should look at the character sheets, shouldn't I? I'll try and do that after I've done this. So, when 2 or more characters want different things, a conflict arises. Conflicts encompass everything from chase scenes to combat to intense negotiations and standoff between rival cartels. When you are in a conflict, these rules help determine who comes out on top. When you attack, so when you oppose someone directly, sometimes you must make an attack against them. Making an attack is exactly like making a check, and your judge can help establish what the check you're using, or what skill you're using to make the attack, and you roll percentile dice to determine if the attack succeeds. You make physical attacks with the intention of physically harming people, stabbing them, shooting them, punching them in the face, and so on. Only physical attacks can cause wounds. You can make mental attacks against people by trying to get them to do something that you want. This can represent coercion, intimidation, lying, or even seduction. Okay. Again, no mention of this beforehand. So, mental attacks do not cause wounds and are usually used in scenes where you want to coax something out of a judge-controlled character that he or she does not want to give up. When you make an attack and succeed, your progress is one step closer to eliminating your opponent from the scene. Succeeding on an attack is called a hit. When you succeed on an attack, the number you roll determines the effectiveness of the attack, reflected as damage of the attack. Oh, is this gonna... it's doing success levels. It's absolutely doing success levels from Warhammer, isn't it? So, for example, for physical attacks, most weapons provide a bonus to the damage of that attack. So say you're an assassin with an 80% chance to succeed to stab someone. You're using a dagger, which grants a plus 10 damage, and you roll a 67. So the attack is success, and the damage is 77. What? That's wild. So you could roll literally up to 90 damage, right? Oh, and they take... see, the target takes that damage to his or her luck. So luck is the hit points. I was like, whoa! That's a massive... That's a big, like, swipe. All members of the crew start with a job with 100 luck. Luck simultaneously represents your general level of awareness, calm, resentfulness, that's what I'm feeling, restfulness, resolve, and willpower. It is an abstracted amalgamation of everything that keeps a character moving forward when motivated. Since luck represents a character's willingness to continue pursuing his or her goals in a conflict, when his or her character loses luck, the loss is reflected in the erosion of will to continue the struggle. When you're being shot at or stabbed, luck partially represents your ability to avoid physical damage. Losing luck when attacked with a weapon doesn't mean that attack physically harms you, but it does mean you had a close call. Additionally, when you fail at a check to attempt something that puts your character at risk of physical harm, so for example, leaping across a wide alleyway between rooftops of 2 buildings, the judge can rule that a failure has dealt damage to you. Usually, the judge rolls a physical attack against you with a 50% chance of success. If successful, you take damage equal to the number rolled. I don't mind this. I like this a little bit, but it feels bloody wild, though. When you take any amount of damage, you reduce your current luck points by that amount. If you take damage greater than the amount of luck you have, reduce your luck to 0, and when you have 0, your luck has run out. You are vulnerable to taking physical damage from attacks made against you. Each time you are hit by an attack that can physically harm you whilst your luck has run out, you suffer 1 wound. A wound represents physical damage, like a slash to the arm, a bump on the head, and so forth. The more wounds you accrue, the harder it is for you to continue acting in the scene. So not only are you using your luck, like you start with 100 luck, and then you're spending it like to bump up your success levels by a lot, or what was it? Spend 20 to be in a scene? That's wild. Surely you should start with, like, I don't know, 150 luck or something. Like, it feels like 100 luck is good, but it shouldn't be like you spend 20 luck to get into a combat scene. Like maybe 5 or 10. I don't know. That's like 1/5 of your health technically. You're spending to be a part of the scene. Like, no one's gonna come and be in that scene if a drama scene starts, right? When you have 1 wound, you add 1 challenge dice to all attacks and checks. Right, so you add a challenge dice for what reason? Like, all it does, it doesn't affect your chances of success. It just means like, oh, more bad things happen, like more heat gets added to the judges pool. When you have 2 wounds, you add 2 challenge dice to all attacks and checks. When you have 3, you can no longer take actions though you remain conscious. At this point, even speaking and remaining focused are difficult efforts, and you struggle to remain conscious. If for some reason the judge asks you to make a check, you will add 3 challenge dice to check. When you have 4 wounds, you fall unconscious. Repeated knocks on the head, blood loss, and simply going into shock from pain renders you unable to participate in the scene. And typically, when you have 5 wounds, you die. In some scenes, your luck running out might also mean that you've lost your resolve or ability to carry on. The exact effects of someone's luck running out largely depends on the scene at hand and the methods used to reduce a character's luck. When a judge-controlled character is reduced to 0 luck, the judge determines how that character reacts. Usually, that character loses the ability to have a significant impact on the rest of the scene or acquisitions to the desires of the players. When someone's luck runs out as a result of a mental attack, the person who causes the loss acquires what they want out of the target. Normally, this applies to the player characters attacking enemies. When a player character runs out of luck, it usually means they are vulnerable to being attacked by or wounded by an attack. In some scenes, the judge might rule that the player's character's luck is running out requires them to exit the scene. For example, in a chase scene, the judge might rule that your luck running out represents the moment you are captured. Another way to think of it, when your luck runs out in the drama scene, that isn't about physical combat, but adversaries get the better of you in a way the judge decides. Makes sense. Fine. Good. Another example there. Recovering luck. So this requires a character to take time to recover from the stress that depleted it in the first place, a process known as blowing off steam. Nice, I like that. This involves a combination of rest and recreation, and most characters recover their resolve by taking a break from the action of the story. Recovering luck usually takes the form of a leisure activity such as carousing in a tavern, working on a hobby, enjoying a bard's performance, spending time in a gambling hall, visiting a brothel. What? Hang on. Again, I'm not being a prude here, but there's been no content warnings to this book. It feels like a child's game. It feels like a family-friendly game. Taking in a play at the local playhouse, spending an afternoon betting on the horse races, paying attention to the poppy den, okay, drugs, great, and so forth. To recover your lost luck, instead of taking the lead on the legwork scene, you may spend that time enjoying some recreation that helps you recover it. The exact nature of the leisure time is up to you. You need only to confirm that the judge agrees with that chosen recreation to help you recover from whatever reduced your luck in the first place. You then instantly regain all your luck. Ah, okay, interesting. You don't roll for it at all, you just regain it all. So I guess you just take time out of it. Takes a whole day or night segment, or you just can't partake in a legwork scene. Fine. Because everyone healing wounds. So because the body can recover from punishments only so fast, you recover wounds much more slowly than you recover luck. You remove a wound after 2 complete day or night segments, so 1 full day has passed. Okay. No way to heal it at all, no healing things there. If a character does not have luck, Physical attacks will deal wounds, although as though she has 0 luck. Yeah, we know that. Inflicting the wounds directly. Mental attacks against a character with no luck are treated as though the attack has just reduced the character to 0 luck. Okay. And then we have weapon statistics here. So your attack damage is equal to the number you rolled plus the damage bonus here. So like here, a blunderbuss. If you succeeded and you got, I don't know, you had to get under 60 and you got 40. So you get 40 plus 50. That's 90 damage to someone's health. Wild. Absolutely wild. And then we have campaign play, which sort of goes on in a little bit. Like I said, I can imagine this being like a West March game, and describing that elements of other people can come in with different characters and stuff. And it talks about experience, getting. Does it? It uses something. Oh, you can give experience points, but then I'm guessing it says here like. I'm just reading it now. Hang on, sorry. It's always tied to cartel. Fine. If you've accrued certain benefits, like, oh lord, and something to do with fortune points. Yeah, I'm not. Story conflict, so this is more about the story itself. Just want to check if there's anything else. We've got some specific rewards when you resolve a story conflict or when you complete like an actual job mission, I'm guessing. Okay. Right. I'm going to call it there because I'm a little bit... I don't know about anyone else. I'm a bit drained because I just don't care about this at all. I feel really bad. So what do we like about it? I think it could have been a really interesting book. Again, maybe if we'd looked at the setting book a little bit. Does it have... When does this come out? Did it say when it comes out? 2017. Okay, 2017. So it's 8 years old. No. 7 years old. And there you got the table of contents and stuff like that there, which are hyperlinked, looks like. Great. Interesting. Why don't we have that in the rules books? Why don't we have table of contents for the rules books? Because there's clearly lots of stuff in here, which I would not be able to find if I was searching for it. There's not big sections and stuff. This is me looking at the actual rules in the judge's book. What if I wanted to... like, okay, well, where can I find the scenarios? They're at the back of the book. Where? Here? No, there. This has this stuff here. It has these section headings, which is great, but that's not helpful if I'm looking at the beginning. There's also no index either, which I think could be useful in this because there's a lot of information on all these pages. It is written like a board game manual. There's no terminology. I think it would have been nice to have a little bit of a primer about each of the different 8 cartels that you could have just put in the book rather than just passing around these sheets, perhaps. It would have been nice to see actual like a demonstration of like what you think the layout of an in-person game would be. Like, would you have these cards as timeline? What does that look like? What percentile dice here? We've got challenge dice. We've got these tokens. We've got fortune tokens and there's heat tokens, and then we've got 5. So it just you can only have up to 30 heat at any one time, right? I can't remember what it said about fortune. How many fortune things can you have? I just don't think it's accessible. Literally, I feel it's just wave after wave of big text blocks, which aren't enjoyable to read. And there's no artwork to break this up. You think you spent a lot of, there's a little bit of artwork, but no description of what they are. Again, challenge dice, there they go. They've got images of the challenge dice there. At least they say challenge dice, to be fair. But no alt text about the boons and the challenge, the boons and the drawbacks. Some of the images look like they are pixelated as well, which is a bit of you can see it there. Really bad pixelation there on the leg there. I just don't feel excited to play this game, to be honest with you. There's no, from the rule book, it doesn't tell me how to create characters. Now, obviously, it might say this elsewhere. It might be more obvious on something else. But I think it would be nice, but like, if you want to create your first character, go over to this book. Like, actually direct people and where to go. I'm trying to think of stuff I like about it. What do I like about it? I think like the main mechanic of a D100 is good. I always am a big fan of that. So because again, as I said, each difficulty depends on the player getting equal to or under their roll. Great, I love that. Spending your luck thing, with your luck being your sort of a symbolic thing for your health and stuff like that, I think that's quite good. I think some of the percentages are a bit high to be in a situation, but obviously it's about the risk of it. And that, yeah, you can spend a scene not doing legwork but to replenish your luck. Great, I think that makes sense. That's the trade-off there. Similarly, I like the idea of the day and night phases to categorize the story structure so people know what they're doing and giving them set goals. So like, okay, we're now doing a planning scene. You have 15 minutes to plan so 15 minutes in real world time to plan. I do like that. Thinking about it and reflecting on it keeps people on board and keeps people engaged and not finding problems but finding solutions. So a big fan of that. And then having the choice going like, okay, do you want to go into a leg scene to start implementing it, or do you want to continue talking about it? I will say though, there should be an expectation that people stick to the plan, and if there's a problem with players not sticking to the plan or there's a change, they can change after it. I don't know if it says with the legwork scene, like, if you have like say 4 players, one person is out recovering luck, and then you have, what are you 3 doing? And they're like, oh, well, and 2 of them want to do one thing and one person wants to do another. Is it just one scene that those 2 people do together, or do you do several scenes at the same time? Wasn't entirely clear on that myself. There's no credit for the artists as well. No, like, again, it's been written as a board game manual. But you also think like it's a bit. Some of the columns, some of the borders are a bit like this has moved over quite a bit because these dice are too big. Absolutely should be smaller, which is a shame. What do the quirks do? Like, there was no description of like what these things do. Like a list of like terminology, where to find it, all that sort of thing. Yeah. I think ultimately I'm just a little bit disappointed because it spent so long setting up like what the structure of the game is. I was like, okay, I get that. It is structured. Then there was no layout, there was no nothing, and then it just feels a little bit all over the place. And then yeah, I'm not a big fan of adding advantage dice and challenge dice, which you then use a different system that don't impact on playing. So easily, I could just run the D100 game mechanic system, succeed or fail, spend the luck, and that's it. I don't need to add like, oh, there's a cost, there's this. Like, I can improv that quite easily. I don't need dice to tell us that. I don't know. It bugs me that is included in the game. Like heat and influence, I think makes sense as a spending token thing. You're just adding more different systems on top of things. There you go. I generally don't think I can recommend this game. I feel I've had too many faults with it, but if people are interested, I'd recommend going looking up the stuff. Certainly, like there you go, finding out more. Again, the setting might be more interesting. For example, I do like the terminology it uses, like the right kind of people. So we just didn't get enough of the themes or the setting through. So it felt more of an instruction manual rather than a role playing game, personally speaking. But there you go. That is Dusk City Outlaws. I'm sorry, I'm a bit disappointed with that personally, but I hope maybe other people will have some better opinions and will be able to like tell us about their experiences if they comment on the VOD and be like, oh, we had a good game and stuff like that. I genuinely would love to know, because maybe it's one of these games that you understand better when you play it, perhaps. I don't know. But yeah, go check them out. Go check out the Spectaculars as well. Again, your mileage may vary, I guess, because we've obviously got Outlaws here and Spectaculars is the superhero one as well. Let's go back to camera only. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I appreciate it wasn't necessarily the most fun, exciting stream. I feel like I found more faults than enjoyable things personally. But if you want to hear more of my content, check out What Am I Rolling? It's a twice-monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast where we do lots of different RPG systems. I do interviews with game designers, and we're just wrapping up a world-building series now, and then we'll be hopefully back on the way to doing some more fun one-shots, because I appreciate it's been a little while. If you're like, I want to hear about D&D lore instead, Fiona, I'm like, oh, okay. We also do the DM's Book Club, which is a weekly book club podcast where we talk about some Dungeons and Dragons and discuss how we might include them in our role-playing campaigns, where, we discuss lots of different things. We're going to be discussing a little bit of the new stuff that's come out. We're looking at old stuff. You don't need to be a big fan of D&D, and you don't need to start at the beginning. I know some people who listen to podcasts want to start at the beginning, and that's where all the rubbish episodes are. You can pick a topic that you like, and we probably have done it, so go check it out. It should be easy to find, and you can check out What Am I Rolling and the DM's Book Club wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you so much for that. Let's see, there's a lot of notifications on Discord. What's going on, Discord? What is going on? Next week, let me tell you what's happening next week in terms of events. We're doing some more Too Long Didn't Reads. We've got Rats, a game of Furry Fury, it's called. That's going to be on Tuesday. We're going to read through that. We've got The Skeletons by Jason Cordova. That's the Gauntlet. Jason Morningstar, who's of Bully Pulpit Games. We're doing a Too Long Didn't Read of that on Thursday. And then finally we're doing Green Skies, which is by, I'm just trying to see, Small Red Robin on Itch, which is about a sentient garden building, which is quite nice, a solo RPG. Again, another Too Long Didn't Read of that on Friday. All those streams are at 11 a.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. BST, and all the VODs will be available afterwards if people want to go back and look through them. I've lost what I was doing. There we go. Thank you so much, friends. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. I'm going to go get on with some work. And stuff. But thank you for joining me. I very much appreciate it. And I'll find the NSG button. I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Play more games. Maybe not this one. I'll see you next time.